Okay. Okay, let us start then. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the session, today's session. So, we have been discussing the book Messages from 40 Masters, and this is the channeled messages to Aruna Madam by different and various masters. So, we have discussed from Masters Narada, Ashwatthama, and Yudhishthira last session. So we are going to see the messages from a few other masters today. Okay. Uh, so the first message is from messages from Durvasa. So this is channeled on 6th April 1994, 3:40 p.m. Okay, so if we just listen about Durvasa Rishi or Muni, right? What do we remember? The first thing we remember that he is a very angry Muni, right? So we will learn more about that from these messages. So he is saying, right, from his personal point of view, there are no messages, but I mean, he don't want to from that perspective, but his message is that he wants everyone to know that he is not just famous rishi or muni for his anger or a short temper. Okay, he has attained what buddha has attained or what jesus has attained, and yet people hardly know him for his anger even now, right? If we remember durvasa muni, or if we listen about him, the first thing we say is that he's a, or we remember him as that he is a very angry person, right? But his life was attuned to help many rishis, sages. He trained many people like kings, right, who were themselves meditators in perfecting their respective tasks. I mean, although well advanced in their meditation, the kings or other rishis or disciples, but they were less advanced in the pursuit of the enlightenment, and they used to make silly mistakes. And that's why uh, that was the only reason, right? It was and has always been that reason for his anger towards them. He was always successful in getting the most beneficial return out of his anger, and that was his justification, right? So he, most of the time, he was calm and teaching kings and all the officials, rishis, disciples. I mean, no person can always be angry all the time, right? So, and he himself has a lovely family. He has a wife, he has children, he lived with them, right? And he worked with kings and highest ranked officials. He meditated with other meditators or sages, and he has done lot of work, and his disciples are there, right? And he has a very normal life like other rishis or brahmarshis, right? But hence, that's why he's asking not to label him as a ruthless or very angry person, right? Because he's not just an angry master, right? He is same as both jesus and buddha. But just because he is not portrayed or talked about teachings of love, we should not think that he do not know anything about love. His family life, his children, and mainly his disciples are all his notes of love. And his main accomplishment in spiritual life were teachings of nirvana to his disciples or kings or other officials, like highly ranked officials and more rishis and brahmashis. Like, even he is not termed, that means we don't know him, right, by that he is famous for nirvana, because that word we always hear from buddhism only, right? But at his time he has helped many of his people attain it. He teached nirvana to many of his disciples. And if you look at the timings, right, when the jesus was here, that time was different. or that place is different, we can say. In that time or that place, right, it was very chaotic atmosphere, very less culture time, or all all the values has been shattered. And that's why Jesus taught love to the people, because that people at that place at that time, they were very common people, and that is a time to teach love, that is appropriate at that time, right? But when Buddha was there, uh, Buddha had a very large community of much advanced people, right, who were much more enlightened than the people at the time of Jesus. And that's why Buddha has taught regarding enlightenment, right? So his desire is to create enlightened masters. So each thing has a justification. And similarly, at that time, Durvasa Maharshi was there when he is teaching Nirvana, when he is doing that, he has to be angry, right, for certain teachings. So his teachings were most attuned towards basic peaceful living only, right? If we're taking life as a challenge, that means we have to take life as a challenge and live in every challenge peacefully. That is what he is teaching. And anyone can do it, right, including us. And that is the only way to show love towards life. So any situation, right, we have to be peaceful. And that's the only way of attaining nirvana and enlightenment, with living life in its complete form. And that is what he has taught to the people of his time. And that is what he wants us all to know, is that to attain whatever Jesus or Buddha, or in fact any master has attained. So he is very confident that we all will achieve nirvana or enlightenment, because we are in such this conductive atmosphere, right? We are surrounded by like-minded people. We have been meditating, we are learning the wisdom, and we are sharing the experiences, right? So we are in the correct path. That is what he has meant. So that is the messages from Durvasa master. So next is messages from Jamadagni, and this has been channeled on 17th April 1994, 10:05 p.m. So, masters, if you are thinking who is Jamadagni, he is father of Parshuram, Brahmarshi Parshuram. Mostly we know him from the story of Ramayana. Where Rama is, before getting married to Sita, he was, that bow. He breaks the bow, and Parshuram enters. Right. So Jamadagni is father of Parshuram. So we will take, or we will know messages from him now. Okay. So he is saying that he is initially not called by this name, and he have attained it after his persistent practice of very uh, hard heartedness or ruthlessness, or you can say very like a strict military style. Because Jamadagni is like that. He says he is perfect master in training with hard heartedness. See how in the army people do, they are very strict, very disciplined, right? Very hard on people. So till now we have seen masters emphasize being calm, and divide, or very serene, or like the divide of anger, right? Or at least that's what people think how masters ought to be. We think that if we talk about any master, they should be like very calm and serene, right? But Jamadagni is saying every master ought to be strict, right? Otherwise he would never attain whatever he has wished for. It is such a wonderful being of him, like he accepted him that way, right? And because that way he can do greater good. He says that it gave him immense confidence. Only with such personality you empathetically prove or say clearly your views or ideas about any aspect. So this is a view of Jamadagni we are looking at. So he's telling being strict is also important. That is his style, right? And his life is an example of such heartedness, or hard heartedness, because he has brought out his son's worthiness with one such stroke. I mean, if you remember, or if you all know, we would have heard the story, right? He asked his son to kill his mother and brothers, so he's talking about that story. And he had brought out, right, his son's worthiness with one such stroke, because he had given him that tough task, very hard task, right? Like that's a ruthlessness task, to kill, asking his son to kill his own mother, right? So, and with one such stroke, right, with one that task, what happened was Parshuram, uh, or his love towards his mother and brothers, and his total dedication to his master, or also father, it all came together. He has become more worthy. I mean, not only this, he wanted Parshuram to be very confident and independent person, which he was not previously. But this incident changed a lot of his mental attitude and gave him a new understanding of life. Right, until then he was obsessed with the thoughts of peace, just, and nothing else. He thought that life is all peace, but he learned that peace does not exist without or after the after killing his mother and brothers. Like, for any learning to occur, one has to let all the probabilities happen. Like, for we are here to learn things that we have not learned previously. So even today, Jamadagni is still practicing the same thing, as much as required, and he is very perfect in it. And he accepted him in that way, right? Being strict is the core of his teachings. He emphasized it a lot because it is the basis of advancing on the spiritual path in its true essence, right? I mean, if we look in the army, we can teach peace in the army, right? So he's trying to focus the similarity here. So if we look at the Jesus, or when we say, like, the strictness, we don't need to take it in a violence way as well. Okay, the strictness comes in our own self discipline, or breaking away our old habits. So we have to what do you see the we have to take the message to ourselves, right? We have to bend it to ourselves. So as Jesus or Buddha or any master, right, would not be what they are or had if they had not practiced such ruthlessness or strictness. See, if we take a Buddha, right, to attain nirvana, he don't know the correct way, right? He was trying so many things, and one of it was he starved himself for months and months. I mean, if you see, that is also violence in one way, right? But he eliminated, right, by such probability. So he's trying to tell is, in this spiritual path, at one point of time, we have to be that strict, right? So with put being strict, the spiritual masters can survive, because only that can only help in this wild or crazy world. I mean, in his opinion, being strict is like a armor against the the troublesome people or situations around you. You have to fight it, right? So we need that strength. That means we have to be very strict. So his message is that the survival of the fittest concept, right? We would have heard that that sentence. So it is that the true spirit of that is the same thing, the same message that we are hearing, or regarding the ruthlessness, or being strict, or are hard hearted. I mean, unless you are strict, you are not a full master, because whatever be your level of meditation and enlightenment. So this is the messages from Jamadagni masters. So very different angle, or something new we have heard from him. Very interesting. And next thing is messages from Valmiki. and this has been channeled on 20th April 1994, 3:15 p.m. So most of us know him from Ramayana because he is the one who has wrote or he has given Ramayana, right? So, but here in this message, right, we also will also know how he has transformed himself as a writer. So basically, Valmiki Muni, he is a hunter by birth. And he used to hunt every day. His daily life is just, hunt, and days to cook, and it's just a uh, life in a forest. But one day what happened was, when he hit upon a bird, when he killed a bird, and that suddenly hit upon him, something changed entirely for him, and it became the cause of change in his attitude. So there's just that one instant, and it is not even new to him. He has been doing that for all his life. Okay, but that one day, that moment, something changed. And then he changed completely, and he then, no longer wants to hunt, he longer wants to do anything, he don't want to do or deal with any people. He just want to escape. And in that state, what he did was he just started doing meditation. And and he did continuously, and he opened his eyes after 3 years. That's it. And during those years, right, even his body did not ask for any, physical needs like food, sleep, or any other comforts. I mean, he even don't really know what happened during that time. But when he woke up after 3 years, he just know that he has to write Ramayana and story about, that's a story about great master Rama. And he is a hunter, right? He is from that family. He is not even educated. He has never attended school for even basic education, nor he has certain knowledge or, those literary skills in him in regards to writing a book. He doesn't know anything if it comes to writing a book. But after writing the book, right, it was auto channeled or auto rated. After he wrote, then he got all the knowledge, uh, or that book made sense to him only after he took a brief or formal education with various people. So he has first written the book, then he understood it. But when he is writing, he doesn't know. So his message for all of us is like, live like Rama and attain whatever Rama has attained in our own way. Okay, so he has become a champion of living in his or in a complete sense at every particular moment of his life, right? Like, he is surrounded by many great masters, and he is one amongst them, right? And as a king, he was very superior person and only did what is best for his people. And as a brother, he was a symbol of most lovable brother. And as a husband, he was the most considerate husband. And regarding this, right, being a considerate husband, many women would like some clarifications, because there are certain situations where women confront them, right? Because, and Valmiki, he wants to clarify on this as well. So Rama was first of all very considerate to allow Sita to go with him to the forest. Right? He because taking care of women in the forest is another big responsibility. But he was considerate because she wants to follow him. Okay. And next thing is, despite or Rama knows that the golden deed that Sita asked, it's a fake one. He know that he is a master, and he knows that. And despite knowing that golden deed was a magical invention of Ravana, he still promised to bring the deed to her, right? Because he knows that you should not do anything with one free will. That means we should not interfere with one's free will, and he's a master and he knows that. And Sita here used her free will when she madly desired that golden deed. Yes, she was a master, but every master is again, vulnerable to various desires, right? When you are in a physical body, and it's how you choose to react to the desires that is going to shape your future. And Sita is a master, and Sita shaped it to reach Ravana only. She knows that. And it and had it not been, for his considerate nature or Rama's nature, why would Rama again go and search for her, right? And having reached Lanka, he waged a war against Ravana. He won the war and, got Sita back. He is definitely a considerate husband. And again, after coming back home, he had to leave her again in the forest, like reacting to people's opinions against her. He had to do it as a king, not as a Sita's husband. So here, Valmiki is saying it is very important for every person to understand Rama here as a king in particular, not as a Sita's husband. And to think honestly, any woman would not like her husband to fail as a public personage, right? He is a king, and that too as a person holding the highest official seat. That means king. I mean, no wife wouldn't want that, right? So the other reason why Sita was never against Rama was that he never told her the real cause of their separation, and she knew deep in herself that Rama loved her more than anything. She knew that and she trusts that. And in his test as an able man, she felt she should give all her cooperation. And this is the principle on which she lived in a forest, right? And uh, and she also knew that, Rama was not only a worthy ruler or a king, but also a worthy husband. So despite having a lot of wealth, how many people have or had their wife carved in gold? I mean, that idea, right? He is a king, he could have married many women at that time, right? Uh, it was very common during that days. So but nobody did like Rama, like hardly any. So this also speaks of, Sita's worthiness, or Rama's. So Rama was, in his view, like perfect personality who lived out a very perfectly designed life, right? He designed his life, he lived also like that. He never even let his, meditational background interfere with his day to day life, uh, or uh, nor his what do we say, like his knowledge of meditation interfere, right, with your learning in the situation life design you have taken. uh, Rama knows everything, right? So the message is like, live this life completely to its very end. Do not worry or think about tomorrow's troubles, because thinking of tomorrow, you miss your present moments. And these are the messages one should learn from Rama, right? And if we look at Sita, Sita is, very docile, serene, or you can say charming princess, right? That's the design she took to prove her subservience towards her husband. That means she never questions her husband, right? That's the life design she has brought. And she was with him when she could have stayed happily in the palace. She don't need to go to a forest, but she wanted to go with him. And she was, when she was all alone waiting for Rama in Ravana's captivity, it was only Ravana that she seriously threatened, right? But otherwise, if we look at other people, she was never threatening anyone, and that is her nature. Such was her nature, right? Sita knew very well that, one crucial aspect of a wife, which every woman today ought to learn. We all should learn from Sita when coming from the wife perspective. So that is what Valmiki is trying to tell us. So when two people are together in a marriage, it is always essential for the wife, to know that she has always dominated this person many times. And a person who is a husband he becomes husband only when the domination by the other person has reached a maximum. So when I'm reading this, right, so what Valmiki is trying to tell us is, see, we have in our society, right, women and men, like men dominates women or husband dominates wife. So what he's trying to say is, you have become a wife because you have dominated the other person in your previous lives several times, and it has reached the maximum. Now this is the time for you to learn out of it, right? So when you become, or you come as a wife to another person, right, that's when you have to show your patience, right, towards husband. That is when we learn the lessons of compliance. Because everybody feel like that, it's very unfair, or to even born as a woman, people have such feelings. But you have to understand that, you did the same thing in your past lives, and this is the time this is the time for us to learn out of those experiences. Okay, so live the way Sita lived and see how you will prosper, right? So you will automatically have all the elements under your control, and you will advance and evolve a lot. So you may think, in the materialistically, subordination is stupid or wrong. This is what Valmiki is saying. So we think, right, everybody should be equal. I mean, this is not fair. So we have such ideas, but he's saying, like, those ideas are wrong, because in these situations, like, being subordinations or being patient, showing unconditional love, it will pave the way for your spiritual evolvement. Because in that subordination, we will learn to be patient, we will learn to be more unconditional, we will learn to be more accepting, right? So, and what happens, all these are helping us to grow in the spiritual evolvement. So that's what he's trying to say. And unless each husband or wife are unconditional to each other, right, so we have to come to that point. Even though how many lives we are taking, we have to come to that point where both are unconditional to each other. And how can they live, right? Otherwise, there should never be a question of domination between a wife, husband and wife relationship. And that is what we have to learn from Sita's life. And now Valmiki message in the end for us is like, sincerely other, to your dharma in all daily situations, inside and outside your home, whoever you get contact to, right, just try to stay in dharma. And if you, and this helps to evolve ourselves in spiritually. So this is it, mastered. So I'm mostly just reading the book, and just explaining in the middle, if it's a little bit taking away from the like paragraphs. So we will conclude here, masters, and we will continue in the next week sessions. We will read more messages from other different masters. So let me first stop the recording.